Homan is talking to the Department of Justice, asking them whether or not she has broken the law.
He's asking for the line between helping criminals evade prosecution or deportation. That's what he said. He's trying to figure out where the line is.
There is a crime called impeding, which if you are getting in the way of immigration officials, you can be charged with that. In fact, I covered this utterly insane case that was run by a Democratic attorney general, or Democratic U.S. attorney under the Obama administration, named Carmen Ortiz, who, for nakedly political purposes, went after this bureaucrat whose cleaning lady or nanny came to her and said, I think, I don't have papers. What should I do? And the woman said something like, well, don't leave the country because if you do, you're not going to be able to come back in. And you should apply for a green card, and here's how you can do that. Which, very standard, normal, non-criminal behavior. She charged that person with impeding and got a conviction out of it. It became a controversial case, and she was criticized for it, but she got that. That was, however, a direct conversation with one individual about a specific case. AOC talking to a community group full of people, or talking on Twitter in general about your constitutional rights, to me is crazy. If you want to talk about criminal behavior, we should talk about the Homan Eric Adams deal, which is still, the saga of which is still ongoing.
And let's go to A1. We can put that up on the screen. This is a New York Times headline from Monday, which reads, 4 top New York City officials, this is the first paragraph, said they would resign after the Justice Department moved to dismiss Mayor Eric Adams' corruption case in apparent exchange for his help with President Trump's deportation agenda. The 4 officials oversee much of New York City government, and their departure is poised to blow a devastating hole in the already wounded administration of Mayor Eric Adams. Now, Brian, this is actually starting to wound the administration of Governor Kathy Hochul as she faces increasing calls to get rid of Eric Adams, which is within her power.
Yes.
I mean, Democrats are now increasingly calling on Kathy Hochul to get this guy out of there. She has to be careful, obviously, because Eric Adams' previous immigration policies were wildly unpopular, not just in the city of New York, but around the entire state. So she doesn't want to look like she's, this is retribution for Eric Adams cracking down on illegal immigration and assisting the Trump administration on one of its most popular policies. On the other hand, he's a huge albatross.
Yeah, and the argument for removing him from office is that he ran and claimed that he would be carrying out his duties in the best interests of the voters who put him in office. But instead, in order to stay out of prison, he struck a deal with the Trump administration to be their lackey. The evidence for that claim comes from Tom Homan.
And Eric Adams.
And Eric Adams, who said it.
On Fox and Friends.
Let's put D2 up, this Fox and Friends admission.
If he doesn't come through,
you're up early anyway.
If he doesn't come through, I'll be back in New York City, and we won't be sitting on the couch. I'll be in his office, up his butt, saying, "Where the hell is the agreement we came to?" So,
I want ICE to deliver, and I want ICE to deliver. We're going to deliver for the safety of the people of this city.
Up his butt.
And then he immediately, you see Eric Adams there. He's like, "We're going to deliver for the city, the people of New York City," as if we didn't just see him say out loud, We have an agreement, and if you break it, I'm going to be up your butt.
Yep.
Which, anyway.
Well, I was going to say, we can put D3 on the screen. Eric Adams, this is another New York Times headline. It's now up to the judge whether to drop charges in the Adams case. So that can is kicked into, let's say the ball, keep doing the metaphors here, goes into the court of the judge because Emil Bove, the acting deputy attorney general, made that issue last Monday. So now it goes to the courts. Or, by the way, Kathy Hochul could get rid of Eric Adams and a lot of this, but obviously it's still going to, the Trump administration is still, the Trump administration still has to, it'll still be litigated by the Trump administration, or will be, the backlash to the Trump administration's decision will still be litigated. Now, Eric Adams is going to be in court today. That's news we learned yesterday, talking about all of this.
Now, as viewers of this program know, there is this Stephen Donziger alternative.
Go on.
So when Donziger,
I see.
if you guys followed our program, you've seen Donziger interviewed. He's the Chevron attorney who was prosecuted as part of his successful Ecuadorian civil case against Chevron. Chevron then came after him criminally back here in the United States. The U.S. attorneys saw the evidence that Chevron had compiled and declined to go forward with prosecution. Chevron went to the judge anyway, and the judge decided to hire a private prosecutor who had links to Chevron also, and enable that prosecutor, this private one, to prosecute on behalf of the government a case that the government itself had said that they didn't want to bring. Donziger refused to turn over his documents and his phones and such, was found in contempt and did like a year plus or so in prison. So, of course, like that is a standard that is held for environmental attorneys who win victories against Chevron, not for, in general, mayors. But it is a precedent that exists that this judge, if they felt like it, could appoint, could go to a law firm and say, look, I think I've looked at this indictment, and it's rock solid. Get a private prosecutor. That would be funny. What would the Justice Department do then? Bove is on a firing rampage.
Yeah.
Just yesterday, asked for a prosecutor named Chang. I forget the first name.
This is D6. Yeah, if we put D6 up on the screen, this is another senior U.S. prosecutor resigned, citing a demand to probe Biden-era conduct. This is Denise Chung, who supervised criminal cases at the U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington, according to Reuters, said she had been ordered to open a probe into a contract that she did not identify and that she believed the request was not supported by evidence.
This was about the EPA thing, where the EPA on the way out
Yes.
had set up this arrangement where nonprofits were going to be executing the Inflation Reduction Act's mandates, and so they moved the money out. There was a Project Veritas video that came out where some Biden person was saying, "We're throwing the gold bars off the Titanic as we're sinking."
It appears that they actually really were.
Yes, however,
Lawfully.
It's like Congress appropriated the money and directed it to be spent. And their fear was that if they didn't spend it, then the next administration would block it from being spent, which would undermine Congress's, lawfully executed appropriations. And so they moved them out quickly. And so Chang said, "I don't think that you have enough to open a grand jury here." And then Bove said, "Well, then I want your." No, it wasn't Bove. It was Martin who said, Ed Martin, said, "I want your resignation." And so she tendered it. Although it did seem like she was willing to work with the FBI to try to go to the banks to get the money back.
It's not impossible to me that there was potentially misconduct, and there should be stuff looked into when you have people talking like gold bars off the Titanic. But I think actually this brings us to the point that I wanted to make, which is this is in D5. Some of this, I think people on the right are correct to assume, is litmus tests for loyalists. They're sort of looking to push for self-deportations in the earliest days of Trump's 2.0 DOJ. And Byron York in the Washington Examiner had a pretty good piece walking through what substantive argument there may have been for dropping the case against Eric Adams, comparing it to the overzealous prosecution of Bob McDonnell, even Chris Christie. Some of this has been bipartisan, by the way, just cases that end up going nowhere against politicians. And I think this is interesting because Jason Willick in the Washington Post wrote on the, quote, underwhelming charges against Eric Adams, but said, this was a hugely botched operation by the Trump administration, which was making this sort of thin case about election interference, that you're not allowed to investigate politicians when the voters have the potential to cast ballots about this politician, or that this was just about the illegal immigration deal. You know, it's more valuable. This is what Emil Bove said in a letter that was very widely circulated back and forth with Sassoon, who resigned. We covered this last week with Crystal, that it